Present.
Councilman McLaughlin,
Present.
Councilor O'Brien,
Present.
and Chairwoman Harris.
Present.
Chair, you have a quorum. And we did have minutes from us.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 12th, 2023. Council McLaughlin makes that motion to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. The clerk will read the next matter. New matter.
A new matter that was sent to me, and I'm at attendance right now. It's back in this committee.
Okay, informationally from the chair, there was a citizens input hearing that was held last week, greatly attended by the city, great community input. The chairwoman, our council president, referred that back to ordinances and rules, where it is before us. We received new meeting minutes in our mailbox just when we arrived here tonight. And we have a member of the committee that has not seen that information, but she has that also available to her. With that said, information from chair, what's the wish of the committee? Council blank, chair recognizes Council blank.
Thank you. Point of information, I think we should compile some of the meeting minutes. We heard from many community advocates for and against. We heard from attorneys, we heard from citizens, we heard from Watch, who I believe was the creator of the ordinance. I think we should take some time to deliberate those and sift through them. Just my thought, I don't know if there's any other committee comments on that.
Madam Chair.
Council O'Brien.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, and also we have a member who was on able to attend, he's not here tonight. In fairness to her, I think we should motion to table.
Motion to table is non-debatable. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. That clerk will read the next matter.
The next matter is the electric grid capacity ordinance.
Okay, we received a communication from the mayor. Is she available to come in? I believe the draft communication that I have here requests that we send a request to the law department to draft that ordinance language. What's the wish of the committee?
Motion to hear from the mayor, committee member.
Can you move in?
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. I'll read it but I'll do it. Yeah, and we come back.
She's speaking at the other meeting.
Okay, so, Council O'Brien makes a motion to table that matter while the mayor finishes her communication at finance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Just 1 second, everyone, while I pull up the document. Okay, we have quite a few special permits before us. So, I believe the juicery is here. Okay, Councilor O'Brien makes a motion to take the juicery at 1019 Trapello Road off the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. The attorney for the petitioner is here. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you? We received a
Will you just state your name and address for the record?
Brett Francis on behalf of the petitioner, the Juicery LLC, with an office at 10 Hammer Street in Waltham.
Thank you.
And I received, after last week's hearing, a copy of the law department memorandum, and I made responses to the memorandum, filed them for Thursday for tonight's hearing. Attached a couple of special permits that were granted in the past regarding this property as well, revised the decision in connection with those comments. And here tonight to answer any questions this committee may have.
Okay, and can you talk, just because it's been a minute since we met with you last, and I apologize. Is anyone recording this meeting for the record?
I am,
Hi.
James Ellis, 19 Warren Street.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. So could you just state what the juicery is all about, just a quick summary, and then we can go to...
Sure, they're
the
a
legal
small
opinion.
privately owned company. They have 10 locations. I think this would be number 11. They provide just natural juices, natural foods. I don't think there's actually much in the way of foods, it's just a small menu, but the juices are all natural. It's a small,
Did you bring any with you?
I did not, next time. I
We
will.
could use some of that right now.
It's a 642 square feet tenant fit out. The tenant, the space was previously vacant prior to the tenant's use. And it's not a seasonal business, they'll be open throughout the year. And that's pretty much the nuts and bolts.
On committee, Council O'Brien.
Thank you to the attorney. In the attorney's opinion, there's some question about the hours.
Yes,
Yeah, the 4 to 6 part, can you address that?
sure, and that was actually addressed at the public hearing, because that did come up. What happened, that's actually a miscommunication in the traffic memorandum. They based their traffic report on a different location. That location happened to close at 4 p.m. Later in the traffic memorandum, I believe on page 5 and 6, they acknowledged that and said that they extrapolated those hours for 4 to 6 from that location. But where it says in the traffic memorandum that they closed at 4 o'clock, that was never intended to be this meeting, this location. In fact, when the discrepancy was caught, they went back to the traffic commission in November of the same year, spoke with Michael Garvin, explained the situation. He understood that the analysis was done till 6 p.m. and that it was just, the way it was written in the memorandum didn't help the situation. So the traffic commission re-voted in November and approved the traffic memorandum as is.
Okay, through you, Chair, to the attorney, on page 2, the second and bottom paragraph, it mentions a minimum of 4 additional parking spaces are needed for this project. Do you have any comments on that?
I would say, when they constructed this building, which was done pursuant to a special permit in 2013, these spaces were identified and created, and they were intended for retail use. Our space use is exactly what's based on the retail use, based on the square footage of the space. In this situation where there are no chairs, it actually matches, the fast food calculation matches the parking for the retail use. So our specific use is seeking no additional parking than what was anticipated in 2013. The fact of the matter is, when the medical walk-in, I don't know what you call these, it's a walk-in where you can be seen, that took approximately, I believe, 30 spaces from my calculation, from my analysis. And frankly, if they were gonna go to a board and have parking relief, it should have really been done then. The fact of the matter is, those are by right businesses, so there was no analysis, there was no looking at the special permit that required a parking analysis. So now, I come 10 years later to fill up the last vacant space, and again, we're using a total of 4 spaces. And so I don't think personally we need relief. I think that the relief that should have been had when a couple of those other businesses went in, and no determination was made at those times for those businesses. So I don't think we have to go, and that's in my response, to get any variance at the ZBA, which would be just artificial anyway. They're not increasing the space, there's no one's gonna leave, there's no, it would be a piece of paper that says you're granted a variance, but would have no real impact on the ground in the actual use of the business. So to make, again, a small business owner who's not gonna have the capacity that's being used at that business, to go get some variance that wouldn't really make a difference on the ground, I think is overburdensome and out of the budget for this petition.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Council O'Brien.
Thank you. Page 4 at the top, second paragraph from the top, it mentions sheet A100, proposed equipment. This plan must be signed by a properly licensed professional. Can you address that?
Sure. That was never intended to be an official plan of what we did was we filed 4 official plans, title sheet, a butters plan, and the existing conditions plan, as well as butters list, frankly, made it as a plan. But this was a sketch based on their other showings, and if it were to become an official plan, well, then when they go to pull the permit, if the building department said, well, we'd like that sink over there, that would require coming back in here and getting a modification for something that would be so superficial. So the idea was to provide it to the council, which I have, and it's an illustration of exactly what they intend to do. But if it were made a plan and made permanent, then any minor modification of that plan from what the building department may or may not request would require coming back in here again for a minor modification. So I included as a sketch and a sketch only.
Okay.
Councilor Bryan.
Madam Chair, through you to the petitioner, on page 4, same second paragraph, it mentions there appears to be only a single way in and out of the area. The building inspector and fire department should be consulted for the determinations as to whether the lease space complies with all applicable laws. Has that been addressed, or has that come up before to you?
No, that has, again, the plans were sent, shown, approved. They're familiar with the property. If that is a requirement, that is an issue, then that will be taken up at the building permit process, because they are going to get a building permit for the fit out, and they will have to comply to all safety zone issues. I frankly don't know the answer whether or not the one or the two if one is acceptable in this situation because of the size of the space. But I couldn't answer that. But I will say that if it's required at the building department, they have to comply. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's a building code issue.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you. I'm just going through the opinion that you had sent back, Mark, you've got it in green and orange, is that correct?
That's the response. It's not the decision.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The responses to the opinion.
Yeah.
And I know the at-large council was kind of walking through some of the things you were at odds with. I just want to jump to, I don't know if this lines up with the same page, but page 6 of your response to the water department. It talks about this plan is intended as a sketch to provide interior. Is that the sketch you're talking about?
That's just the one we were referring to, yeah.
And then if we could jump to page 8. Almost about two-thirds of the way down. Final plan does not indicate unit as unit C. Can you just speak to that?
Well, again, on the existing conditions plan, if you look at the plan, there's no other unit shown but the unit in question, and it's hash marked. So it's clearly, they didn't use the word unit C to describe it, which would only come up in the lease, frankly. But, you know, we wouldn't have had time to make that change to the plan to write in unit C. But if you actually, I mean, I can show you, it shows the outline of the building, and just our one unit, which is hash marked, clearly marked. There's no confusion to be had that that is the one unit that's the subject of the special permit. And, you know, to have the plan, 20 copies, just to add unit C when it's as clear as can be, frankly.
I understood. Back to the water department, your responses to the water department, page 11. It's the middle of the page. Just talk about the dumpster.
Yes, again, on the plan, we show the dumpster. We show that it is in fact screened. We write that it is screened. We didn't describe the screening material, or I guess she put it, the method of screening on the plan. Again, it's an oversight. It clearly shows that the dumpster is, there is a wood screening. It's a fence that's three sides with one opening, obviously, for the truck to come in. But it is presently screened, and, you know, again, to have the plan changed to indicate that it's wooden when it's clearly marked on the plan that it is screened, yeah.
No
So,
further,
again,
no
it's
further,
an oversight.
no further questions, Madam Chair.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. What is the wish of the committee? Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you very much. Just to rehash a couple items. The Unit C portion of it that's not on the drawings, would you be listing that in the order?
It is in the order, I believe.
Okay.
As the address of the. It is, C, Unit C is in my decision.
Mhm.
So it is, that's the unit, that's the question.
And just to reiterate what Councilor, the at-large Councilor O'Brien stated was, I do agree with the, in regards to the fire exits or the means of egress, that will be taken up with the building department.
No getting around
You
it.
won't get to square one unless it's approved. The other question is, just go back to, so this was an original special permit with, in it, all the other spaces are leased and occupied. This was a vacant space.
At the time of permitting, just to correct you real quick, at the time of permitting, only 2 spaces were known at the time. They built it with the anticipation of filling in, I believe, 6 or 7 other units. The only 2 that were on the special permit in 2013 was the Starbucks and the fast food Asian in the back corner. Those were the only 2, the rest were
The
vacant.
building itself was a special permit, is that correct?
Correct.
And then in addition to that, the Starbucks and the Asian Fusion had to get special permits for fast food?
In the same petition, they did it. That was not a special, separate petition.
In the same?
Correct.
And so because you're doing fast food,
That's
you
what it's
need
for.
a special permit here with relief from that.
That's correct.
Now, go back to the parking. If this was all based on the original special permit, I just want to go back to that a little bit. If this was based on the original special permit, the parking spaces for this shell, not as a fast food, but as this shell, was included in the original calculations.
They created 47 spaces. And I don't know if they calculated by the chart or they just arbitrarily stated, but they stated parking spaces for 2 of the spaces through the special permit.
Mhm.
Whether it was calculated that way
Mhm.
or they just said we were designating. So only those 2 spaces have actual numbers attached to them. Every other petitioner after that, or every other tenant after that, has just gone down to the building department, pulled the permit for whatever construction work they
Correct.
need, because the use was as of by right. Ours is different because of the fast food
Just the
aspect.
fast food. Now,
Sure.
so, and there is no seating inside this restaurant?
No.
So even though it is fast food, you're not doing seating, because one of the things that triggers it is the size of the kitchen versus the seating. So there is no seating inside this restaurant? No
Right, and they
seats?
have 2 calculations for fast food, either one going by seats, we don't have any seats, so ours goes by, I think it's 6 per 1,000,
Mhm.
and we're at 642, so there's 3 point something, you round up, and we come to 4 spaces. Which coincidentally, because there are no seats, if it had been a retail store,
Mhm.
you know, a toy store, whatever, any other kind of retail store, this parking would have been the same amount.
And you have 4 spaces?
There's 47, and, you know, again, if you go by these strict uses, we exceed, the entire unit
Mhm.
exceeds the provided spaces.
Mhm.
I would argue that's your medical space,
Mhm.
and I would also argue, post this far out from COVID, I'm sure they're not occupying the number of spaces dedicated to that specific use. But the real fault was, they went in, and I don't know what year they went in, no calculation was ever done at
Mhm.
that time.
And is any of these spaces going to be labeled for this use? It's just general parking and the whole parking lot is not striped?
First come, first served.
And then I will confirm that the dumpsters do have that wooden shade around them. I'm fairly familiar with the site. I have no further questions. Thank you very much.
What's the wish of the committee?
Motion approved?
Council O'Brien makes a motion to approve the special permit at the juicery at 1019 Trapello Road. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Council McLaughlin makes a motion to hear from Hall Street Partners, Roman
Thank
Catholic.
you, guys.
Excuse me, Councilor, no problem, I'll let you on. Council McLaughlin makes a motion to take off the table Hall Street Partners, Roman Catholic Archbishop of Boston at 61 Hall Street. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Council McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Attorney Connors, what's the update on the project?
So
Council
I,
McLaughlin makes a motion to hear from all the members. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it, sir.
Attorney Joseph F. Connors Jr., represents petition of Hall Street Partners, 404 Main Street here in Waltham. Actually, co-petitioner is also the Roman Catholic Archbishop of Boston, so they're the present owner of the property, and they have an agreement to sell the property to the Hall Street Partners. As you know, this is the former St. Charles Memorial Church, and it's the Hall Street Partners' intention to convert that to 20 residential units. So on June 22, I think delivered and emailed the response letter to the committee and to the full council as well, responding to the Attorney Azadi's memorandum, opinion 88-2023. So that letter was a 9-page letter, response letter. I also attached certain documents to that, as well as a proposed order that reflected changes in color, and then a final one in black and white. So the memo itself, there was, most of my comments were in green, just going through the commentary of 9 pages. First comment was about the CPC money, where I responded that that was a voluntary contribution of the petitioners to return $75,000. I did put on the top of page 2 that it would be paid at the time of the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. The zoning board of appeals addressed it, and they asked us to return $75,000. We agreed to do that, but their language in the ZBA decision says upon project approval, which is kind of undetermined number. So I just put in there, shall be paid upon the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. Second item listed by Attorney Azadi was about the address of the property. So I've changed the proposed order to reflect that it's now referred to as 61 parentheses 51 Hall Street, and a further description of it as the lot at the southerly side of Cushing Street at the southwest corner of Cushing and Hall Street. That's stated in paragraphs 2 and 3 on page 1 of the proposed order. And then, you know, it's, all the plans have been revised to reflect that it's 61 Hall Street now. There was a question whether it was a multiple lots or one lot. Initially, in the 1900s, there was 3 lots, but I did find a 1991 A&R plan, which I attached to my submittal, which shows that the lots were consolidated in 1991 to create a lot that's 30,898 square feet, and that's the same number that's shown on our site plan, C1 and C2. So that's referenced in my notes, and also in the attachments that I provided to the committee and to the full council. And the Chinese already talked about the variance, or excuse me, about the FAR up to 0.12. So we did receive a variance for that. There was other variance that were granted, so I provided to this board and the full council a copy of notice of decision that was granted by the ZBA, which granted the increase to 1.22 FAR, as well as units of 20 units. And I again refer to that in my response to the second paragraph on page 3 of my response, where that was about number of units. Bottom of the page talked about a plot plan, so we did submit a revised plot plan and an abutment plan. We had submitted one initially, but submitted as part of the filing package, which shows the abutters within 300 feet. Obviously, that's a prerequisite to getting a special permit, that all people within 300 feet need to be notified. We have certified abutters in the abutters plan, and we have a supplemental abutters plan that we did submit. Question on the height of the building from the development prospectus. The height of the building is 52 feet, .9, which is the existing height today. Remains, that number's remaining the same. But we did receive a variance for that, because in reading the ordinance, I didn't want to get into a question of, because we're changing the use, maybe somehow use that grandfather height because it was no longer a church and now it's a residence. So we got a variance for that. It's 3 stories with a mezzanine on the 3rd floor, and that's reflected in our sheets 9, sheet 16, which have been corrected to state it as 3 stories. And on page C1, the civil site plan, our zoning legend reflects that it'll be 3 stories and a height of 52.9 feet. There was a question in the memo as well about compliance with parking. We're required to have 40 parking spaces. So I have 41, and that was 21 of them will be compact, and we got a variance for that. at the zoning board of appeals, so that again, that's provided in the ZBA decision. And then there was a question about, which I responded to blue on page 5, about the number of handicap spaces. So we have 2 handicap spaces. That complies with the state law, the CMR, and that's what it was designed based on. That's what the building inspector reviewed and approved. Although there is a general ordinance, not the zoning ordinance, that talks about more spaces, but in that it states that you have required spaces 25 to 40, and you're required to have 5% or 2 parking spaces. So we have 41, but we're required to have 40 spaces. So based on that number in section 84B, we believe we're required to have 2 HP spaces, which we have. And a question about the number of fire hydrants. So initially, I think we represented we were going to install 2 fire hydrants. Since then, the fire department has actually put a new hydrant at the corner of Cushing and Hall Street. And I attached a copy of that picture. It's kind of hard to see. So there's a picture of a new fire hydrant at the corner of Cushing and Hall Street. And then we're going to install a new fire hydrant on Cushing Street, and that's reflected on the plan. So the plans are consistent with what we intend to do. They're a little bit different than the prospectus, because in the meantime, the fire department did install a fire hydrant there. There's a question on the FAR fee. I think we overpaid, so we calculated that again. So it's $31,653. That's based on $1 per square foot. I think initially we computed it just based on the pure FAR, but it's only the difference between the by right and what you actually have. So that reduced, that is added to the proposed order, as well as section, the last section, section 5.3. Question on the one of the plans was entitled zoning code, which was an error. So we revised the plan, submitted new plans with the proper title as the unit matrix and the floor plan, because that's what it is, it's a floor plan. There's a question on my page 6 of my memo about the front yard setback. We have it at 22.4 feet. Attorney Zani suggested that we measure the rear of the column. I didn't see that. We believe it was measured to the front of the column at 22 feet, but the setback required is 10 feet. So before or after, I think we comply and we show that on the plan. We did have the next question was about landscaping. It wasn't signed by a licensed professional. The revised plan that was submitted with this package has a signature on it. We also went through and made sure that the list of the trees listed in the schedule corresponded to the ones shown on the ground. So we'll have 28 trees on the list and 16 of these IC shrubs. So we think that's appropriate. There was a question on the the curb cut we proposed. I did attach a copy of a special permit curb cut that was issued by the Board of Survey and Planning. That was issued on May 3rd, 2023, which they authorized that. So I think she would just raise it to be have it. If not, it should be a condition. We already have it, so we provided you a copy of it. Again, there was a question about compact spaces, so that ZBA decision addresses that. We did revise the landscape and civil plan to show the dimensions of the HP spaces. We also showed the slope, and we showed that the fence around the trash area was described as a solid fence, but we didn't have the material, so now it's a solid vinyl fence. Again, a new abutters plan is filed. Again, kind of repeating itself about the height in the zoning legend at page sheet 3 of the civil site plan. That's on page 8. There was a comment by Attorney Azadi about the traffic study. It said we only measured intersection within 1,000 feet. So apparently that was an error of my traffic examiner. We did study everything within a half mile, and our appendix was 500 pages, so I don't think we forgot anything, so we just restated everything that was required, and I attached a copy of the letter from the traffic engineer Garvin, and it was just a typo essentially. And then there was in our filing, because the clerk of the traffic commission attached the MBTA plan. I don't know why he did it, but he gave it to me, so I put it in the package. But the better bus plan or whatever it's called, had nothing to do with us in the middle, we're not relying on that whatsoever, so. I think we addressed all the comments of the memorandum from Attorney Azadi. We revised several plans to reflect, some corrections. We attached a copy of the ZBA decision that was approved, that gave us the approved FAR, the number of units, and some other relief, as well as a snow management plan, which I added to the proposed decision because that was requested by Attorney Azadi. I attached a copy of the A&R plan from 1991 and the special permit granted by the Board of Survey and Planning, and a copy of the email from Mike Carter. So I do believe that I addressed all the editing requests of Attorney Azadi in the memo. And I attached a copy of track changes in green and then a final draft in black and white.
Appreciate it. Council McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Council, Attorney Collins, just looking back at the memo and your responses. So, as far as the comments made about the handicap spaces, you're in compliance with both the general ordinance and the state CMR. If it's two, I agree with that. And as far as that setback, the 22.4 feet, front of the column versus the back of the column, you're in compliance with that. I'm satisfied with this. I've said it before. I like this project. I like the fact that we're preserving history in the neighborhood. I've done a little bit more homework on the CPA monies that you're paying back, and you don't have to, actually. And you're gonna do that, so I appreciate that. Glad to see it, but there may be other questions, but I'd like to move approval on this.
On the motion to approve, on the motion, Council LeBlanc.
Thank you much, Madam Chair. I am pleased to see the CPC funds coming back, so I do appreciate that. And the Council from Ward 4 states it's a voluntary back payment. They do it a little differently now and back then, so it's a voluntary payment, so the city, I can speak, but we certainly appreciate that. One quick thing on page 7, it's in reference, I brought this up before, and it was in our zoning ordinance, 5.4, you did address it, that whenever there's a curb cut within 100 feet of the parking, you need to go and get the permit from the zoning board of appeals. I have not been able to put my hands on that document. Do you have a copy of this document on the special permit?
Sure. So I attached a cover letter from the board, plus, sure, can you jump up in the front, please?
I appreciate that, and like I said, I don't know if I missed it, but I appreciate you forwarding that document, so that was my question and concern with this, that you did seek the permit that you need, because it's not from this board, it's from,
What's your-
yes, planning and survey. So I'm satisfied, and I thank you for that, no further questions.
On the motion to approve Hall Street Partners and Roman Catholic Archbishop of Boston at 61, parentheses, 51, Hall Street. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, the ayes have it. Council McLaughlin makes a motion to take Hall Street proposed fee for housing department for $1,300,996. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Council McLaughlin, you have the floor.
I move approval on that too.
And so would we have to send this to finance?
Is that right?
If we approve this out of here, should we with a recommendation to go to finance, or can we approve it here?
It's gotta come out.
It's gotta come out of here, it was referred to us.
I don't think it needs to go to finance for the mere fact it's attached to a special providing point of information.
Okay. Council McLaughlin makes a motion to approve Hall Street proposed fee for housing department to create affordable housing to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for $1,301,996. On the motion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, the ayes have it. You're approved. Thank you.
That is in the proposed order as well.
I was gonna ask, so I was gonna say we've got it in the proposed
Yeah,
order as
so that's
well.
affordable housing in accordance with section 9.3, will pay 1.3 pay. So I didn't bring it
Okay, thank you very much, Attorney. Thank you very much, petitioners.
up. Thank you.
Council McLaughlin makes a motion to take 10-14 Lawrence Street for Veggie Crust Inc. off the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Council McLaughlin, Water Councilor.
Thank you. Move to hear from our committee members.
Council McLaughlin makes a motion to hear from all committee members. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Council McLaughlin.
Attorney Corners, you got the opinion back, I think it was last week. Can you just address that? The second opinion.
Right. Again, I do believe that this particular property goes back to initially 1925. So the plan was created in 1923, 57 or 58, and the first building was built in 1957, excuse me, 1926. 57 is the lot. First building was built in 1926, and the second building was built in 1963. So these lots have been operating together as two side-by-side lots as one. The city assessor assesses it as one lot. If you actually go on the GIS office website for the city of Waltham, it also shows it as one lot. So for all intents and purposes, it's one lot. And our site plan shows it as one lot, but technically it's two, going back historically to 1923. If we were to merge it, then we would lose any pre-existing non-conforming structural issues we have, and would be straddling the lot line. I think you asked me, it does go over the lot line. You know, out of the building literally goes over the lot line. So if we were to merge it together, we would create more problems than solutions. So we just don't think it needed to be done. It's pre-existing non-conforming building. All we're doing is an interior renovation. It's been a hassle on there since, I don't know, and we're just gonna interior build a pizza shop.
Right, and it came up in the original opinion, I'm glad we asked that question afterwards, and I'm comfortable with the response was, and I'm comfortable leaving it as the two lots. Anything else you want to add?
I submitted a revised site plan that showed, 580 square feet of snow storage, so there's a line across the, adjacent to the fence on the north side of the building, and then a big, it's kind of a small little strip with a plow it, and then the back corner next to the dumpster, which I talked to the owner of the property, typically that's where they've been plowing it out there, and sometimes they can remove it if it becomes cumbersome, but right now that's more than required. 440 square feet is required, and we have 508 showing.
Yeah, and that answers the question. I mean, I went back to the site this week just to eyeball it, and it's, when you drive by, you don't really take a hard look at it. You drive by, there's plenty of room to the snow bank. I was thinking at one point, was he taking the snow up, but he's not. It's in the back corner of the lot. And I'm comfortable with that too. Anything else?
That was it. The week before, I think I revised the proposed order, which was submitted a couple of weeks back, that added that we can't have any sandwich boards or anything like that on the sidewalk that would prevent site problems. That was added.
And again, I'll repeat myself from last time, just the concern with the neighborhood that we stay ahead. There's gonna be food served there, there'll be food there. We wanna make sure that we're aggressively going after it.
And Gerda, thing, my client, he runs, how many restaurants on Moody Street?
He's a known entity.
So when it came up, he showed me he has a contract with an exterminator that he does business with on Moody Street, and he's gonna be doing business with them on Lawrence Street. So it'll be a continuing, ongoing thing to maintain rodent control.
So I'm satisfied with the responses, Madam Chair, but I'm sure there might be other questions, but I'd like to move approval.
On the motion to approve, Council LeBlanc.
Thank you. Thank you for answering the question about the lot line attorney. And I definitely see the point that if you were to merge the lot, it would have to go to today's current zoning, and nothing will comply over there. So that will create more issues than we've solved. To the credit of the chair of the committee, would you consider, and I'm not looking for this in the order, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, in some of the rodent control they've been doing in the city, we've been leaning towards, is it contrapest? Contrapest, I misspoke. If you discuss it with your exterminator, they use a little bit different, and it's sort
What's it
of
called?
ContraPest. it's-
Contra-
As opposed to poison or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
rodenticide, it doesn't cross over into the food area.
We'll have to ask them.
Yeah,
Some of them do use.
yes.
It's available.
It's a little more costly, and it doesn't seem to have as much effects on the hawks and the poison traveling to other animals and pets, and, but it sort of cuts the line of the birth control, I guess if that's what you'd call it, so it's a little bit better if they would consider, and some do two, and, you know, it's probably so we don't get involved in that, but some do two, you know, they do both of them, and just, you know, mindful that we did have one of Mr. McLaughlin's constituents come in and speak on, you know, road control, and that was all I have.
We don't count that, yet?
Are you amenable to that?
Okay.
You're amenable to that?
Excuse me?
You're amenable to that
Yes.
request? You'll make an adjustment on the ordinance.
Orders here.
Okay, but
Yes.
in terms of that, you'll make that adjustment?
Yes.
The request from the councilor?
I think that, let me see. I'm just gonna take a quick peek at the order.
Okay.
The last one I
I
submitted.
mean, you could always send it to the clerk's office, you know, tomorrow or whatnot, I understand the way that.
Yeah, there isn't even anything in the order that addresses rodent control. So I would just add, I think my last condition, because that's a Board of Health thing.
Right.
But my last condition is P right now, so R, I'm gonna put rodent control. Petitioner agrees to use, what do we call it?
ContraPest.
Contra?
Yes.
Pest. Rodent control. At locus as a regular rodent control measure. Okay.
It's amenable. Anything else, Counselor? On the request to approve the special permit at 10-14 Warren Street for Veggie Crust, Inc., made by the Ward Councilor, Councilor McLaughlin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Information from the chair, we already approved the time extension for 1362 Main Street, so there's no discussion on that, and all other tabled matters. What is the wish of the committee?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn was made by Councilor O'Brien. We are adjourned at 6:26, sorry, on 6:26 at 5:59 PM. All those in favor say aye.
9:59.
Sorry, 9:59 PM. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.